I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Tilly Vickers Willis is a Naarm, Melbourne-based singer-songwriter with haunting smoky vocals and beautiful melodies, who has just released her debut Silver Halide film. I can hear a blend of folk, trip-hop, some jazz trumpets and much more in the album, and wanted to delve a little deeper into the world of the artist. So I'm chatting with Tilly. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. Excited to chat with you.
We're going to talk about the album soon, but can you give a short bio of what you've done leading up to the album process happening?
The album process has spanned about 3 or 4 years, so there's been a lot of things that have gone on. I released an EP and a single a few years ago now, like in my early 20s, which I recorded during COVID. So it was a time where I was doing music alongside uni and working and kind of figuring out my sound and finding my people, being based in Melbourne. And that was like a really great experience, but was definitely quite a disjointed one because of being in lockdowns and that kind of thing. And then leading up to the album, I had a period of traveling after uni and after COVID, and ended up writing most of the music when I was overseas, just like naturally. And then came back home and started working on the recordings.
Okay. I can hear a lot of styles and subtle nods in this album. What would you say musically has been your influences both for the album and generally?
I think, yes, you quite rightfully have identified folk and trip hop. They're both like things that have pushed and pulled me through my life, and in recent years especially. So Portishead being a trip hop band who is like, they're trip hop, but they're a band and kind of span a lot of other genres as well. They've always been a strong influence to me and a band that I love very much. And throughout the album, me and Dean, the producer, were really obsessed with Danger Mouse and all of his collaborations. But Broken Bells, which is like a side project that he did, was an album that we really floated to. And also Karen Owen, Danger Mouse's album Lux Prima. So I think I wanted the album to sound like that. And it's not really that genre, but I think we pulled a lot of maybe like mood from those albums, and the way that Danger Mouse, especially the way he makes drums and how percussion is such a big part of the music that he produces.
So the album title is Silver Halide Film, or however it is pronounced correctly, it depends who's saying it, which is a process used to create analog photos. Where did the title come from, and what does it mean to you?
So the title comes from a sign that I saw in a photo booth on Flinders Street Station, which is the main train station in Melbourne. And I saw it written on the wall, and there was like a little story about the man who had I guess owned and operated this photo booth, and it was for 70 years that he operated it. And then it had basically been restored by this couple who are restoring the old fashioned photo booths around Melbourne. The line stuck in my head, and the song that I wrote called Silver Halide Film was based upon a story, I guess, that was to do with me being in that photo booth with another person. And so it was a line that stuck out to me, just like words. I'm not a photographer, but it was like thematically, the sound of the words was interesting. And so it was just something that kind of stuck. And then when coming to naming the album, it just felt really right. Like the mood of it felt really right. And then in kind of understanding the album as a whole, it's been quite an interesting lens to look through, like the metaphors of photography. And I'm kind of taking that into my live show as well in different ways.
I was going to ask if you knew much about photography, because there's quite a lot of references in the press release and things.
Totally. I'm not a photographer, but I am interested in photography. And I think I kind of come at it from more of an angle of like my imagination of what a darkroom would be like, and kind of like thinking about it as a mirror to a studio or just like to a creative space. And I kind of have like mythologized it a little bit in my writing and my understanding of it.
On a side note, because we'll talk about the video later, but the latest video you've released, is that in one of the photo booths that you're talking about in the song?
Yes. It's not the exact one, but it's by the same people who've restored all of the photo booths in Melbourne. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the release. It's a beautiful record. It's a slow, winding storytelling work that feels really personal. Can you share a little bit about the themes and thoughts that you've included on the album?
All of the songs are oriented towards embodiment and kind of, to me, exploring the feelings of either detachment and feeling out of body and dissociated, and embodiment, saturation, connection. And I think for a long time, I thought that all of the albums, like the point of the album to me was this journey towards embodiment. And that's why In My Body is kind of like the heart or the ending, the resolution of the album and the place that we get to, and is like this beautiful payoff. But with all of the time that I spent recording and interpreting the songs live and listening to it and sitting with it for so long, I've come to understand the album as more of an exploration between these two states, and that they're all like palettes of human experience that are all worthy of feeling and exploring. And that's why songs like Murmuration, which is the opening track of the album, which I would say is one of the most opaque, like vague songs, which to me feels a lot more detached than, say, In My Body or Unfolding or The Aching Never Leaves. I've come to love that and cherish that song, and kind of like the more in-between feelings. And so, yeah, I think the album is an exploration of those two states, and something that I'm always trying to reorient myself towards, that feeling of connection and embodiment and like play. But it's not somewhere you just get to and then, woo. It's, as an artist, like a place that you're always turning yourself towards, and sometimes resisting as well.
The press release explains why it's taken so long for a debut album. So although obviously fruitful in terms of finally bringing the album out, there's been some frustrations along the way too, I assume.
It's been a very long process, but I'm quite a patient person. And I think I've enjoyed the slowness of it, especially in the creation of my first big work. And there's been so many times where I've said to myself, this is, if you were writing a novel, your people probably wouldn't be saying, when is it out? When is it out? Like, they would maybe understand a little bit more. So I often gave myself that grace and compared it to like a novel or a painting or something that I can't rush. But yeah, I think it wasn't an album that I'd set aside like 2 months or 1 month or 2 weeks to do. It was something that I did alongside my normal life and also the producer's normal life and other projects. And so that was one of the reasons why it took a long time, as well as just general life scheduling and those other kind of things. But I've had a few Christmases in a row of people being like, so that album, hey? And I'm like, no, I'm still working on it.
Good things take time, don't they? It's like a fine wine. It has to mature.
Yeah. And I think for this work, it's felt really important. I think the next things that I do will be a lot quicker. I also didn't have a band before I did this album. So a part of the reason why the process took so long was because Dean and I were doing every instrument ourselves and figuring everything out. It was really important for us to do that process as I figured out like this sonic palette that I get to play in now. But I think, yeah, that it just takes so much time and experimenting, or it did for me.
So you mentioned there Dean Touser, who produced the album. He's got a pretty impressive resume. How did he help you to shape this album?
Dean really like sees into who you could be. He has such a vivid imagination and is, I think, a genius. Although he would say, nah, bro. But he really, I think his imagination is the most exceptional thing. And that was really amazing for me, not just as a musician, but as a person. He's like seen things in me and said, no, like, you know, you're that. You should go for that. And so, yeah, I think it pushed me to get the songs to be as, like, to get to the true essence of the songs, and gave me so much time and so much patience and so much room to experiment. And I don't know many people that have gotten or have been given such grace and patience from a collaborator. He's a really exceptional person, and I'm so eternally grateful for our friendship, the collaboration that I've had at an early time in my life.
You've worked with a lot of musicians on the album. Were these mainly people you already knew, or did they have to be drafted in depending on what you needed for a song?
A lot of them weren't people that I knew, but were people that Dean like called his wrecking crew, musicians that he worked with across a lot of other artist projects that he had great relationships with and trusted. So the way we did it to be the most savvy we could was, as I said, kind of like make the models of all of the songs and play as much as we could together, just like collaging the hell out of it. And then when we were like, okay, we need to actually capture a beautiful bass line, we both can't play bass that well. That's when we called, for example, James Gilligan, who came in 3 hours, shredded out the whole album with the parts that we had made. But then also we would say like sunglasses take and just like do it your way. And then we would go and comp everything and do it all together. So that was how we did a lot of it. And then the guy Tok, who played trumpet, was just in a studio next door. So we just asked him to come in at like 1 arvo and do that. And then I had Max, who's in my band now, come and play some guitar. And so it was kind of like between the two of us, we had friends or people that we'd worked with before. Yeah.
There've been 4 singles released prior to the album. Were those the 4 tracks chosen to best represent the album, or was there another reason you chose those particular 4?
Last year, I released Circuit and Silver, Halide Film. I had intended to release the whole album actually last year, but I had basically got burnt out with releasing towards the end of the year and then kind of had to postpone everything. So the reason I put Circuit out first was because I just felt that it was like kind of a soft entrance into the album, and it is like kind of a standalone song, and it is different to all the other songs on the album. But I just felt like it was a very honest and beautiful song that like captured the essence of the connection, but in like kind of a softer way than In My Body. And then Silver Halide Film as the title track. I wanted to put that out as a single as well. So that's why I put out that song. And also, I was building a visual world with my friend who's a director, Jo, and that was a song she was really excited about to make a video for. And so that played into why I put it out as a single. And then this year, in the lead up to the album, I've released Do You Know and The Aching Never Leaves. And In My Body is the feature single of the album. So the intention for releasing Do You Know as the first song of this year was, it's, again, not a traditional single, but it is on the album as the second track. It's kind of like the first moment that intuition is returning and speaks to that idea. And I thought that it felt like the perfect song for me to kind of represent like a re-entrance into the album release. And then Aching, I just love that song and I wanted it to be a single.
Staring at the Sun is my favourite track on the album. It builds beautifully and has sensitive but driving drums and percussion. It's really my kind of thing. What would you say is the song you're most happy with on the album, and why?
Ooh, I'm so glad you like Staring at the Sun. There's a couple of people who have said that was their favorite, and I'm like, okay, you're cool. I think it's like the coolest song maybe. Also, it's a cover of the best band ever, TV on the Radio, who I got to see.
I saw there was a cover, but I deliberately didn't look which one was the cover so that I wasn't biased, because I'm not a fan of covers. So I'm happy to know that that one's a cover, actually. Now I might check out the original.
Oh my God, that's very cool. I'm so glad that was your favorite as well, because yeah, go check out the original. It's quite different.
Well, I probably know it because I do like the band, but I didn't tie the two together. So now I'll go and listen to that when this finishes.
I think my favorite's In My Body at the moment, because we just made the video for it and it just makes me cry every time. It's a favorite song I've ever written to play live. But then in terms of recording, I actually think Do You Know is my favorite song to listen to on the album. It's so weird and I love the ending, and I feel like we cooked with that one. It just got to a place that Dean and I, I don't know how it got there, but we love it.
Okay, we'll move on to your social media. Your YouTube channel has a very clever video for In My Body, which was directed by Joe Miyagi, in which the story is told through body language and very few facial shots. I studied drama for years, so that kind of thing really fascinates me as well. Tell us how that video was made and a little bit of the background to why you chose that style.
I actually had the idea about the feet, the shoes, the love story between shoes, or partially because I love not being in the video, but also because I just had a vision of it or a dream or something, and I just had imagined the shoes running up to the door, and I just had all these ideas about it. And every time I'd listen to the song bike riding home, I often have daydreams about the music. And meeting Jo has been such a special thing. She's become such a gorgeous friend and an amazing person to collaborate with. And she really helped pull out my ideas from my mind and translate them into a visual world, which was something that I was really not confident with until very recently. I feel like I've kind of developed more of a vocabulary and a style, and that's been a lot because of her and our friendship and feeling safe to play around and explore. So the way that we filmed the video, we filmed first the performance shots at a festival that we played in Melbourne at the Abbotsford Convent. That's the shots you'll see of the monsters, the monster puppets, golden scissor
Those
puppets.
Are very cool. I do love those puppets.
Aren't they terrific? They're kind of they have a total cult following in Melbourne, and they're an amazing group of performers, and they were there just roaming the festival. And then Jo and our friend and another director, Thomas, were there both shooting on Super 8 cameras. Jo was also filming a documentary for another band, and they were just kind of running around with these cameras and filming us while we were playing on stage. And so that's where a lot of those videos are from. And then we had the funnest night ever after that. It's a miracle that the footage survived on untested Super 8 cameras. It was such a Hail Mary. And then we shot the scenes of the shoes with my boyfriend, my gorgeous partner, who obliged his shoes for the video. And we just literally shot it in 2 hours in a beautiful Brunswick afternoon, and walked around to a few different locations. And Jo and I kind of made the storyboard on the spot, but we had been talking about it for probably about a year, so we knew what we were doing. Shooting on film, we knew the exact seconds we needed, and we knew just kind of cut it all very, very quickly. And I think every single thing that we shot is actually in the video. You've
worked with the same director for all 4 videos of the single releases, and you've done previous videos with them as well. You said in an Instagram post that Jo always inspires you, but can you pinpoint exactly what works in your creative relationship?
So many things, but I think what I touched on earlier about just a sense of play, and that we can't stuff up, or we don't have to be cool around each other. It's the kind of feeling of the best idea wins, doesn't matter who has it. And we've both been out of our comfort zones a lot. Me in front of the camera, and Jo wasn't super confident with shooting. She's not a cinematographer, she's a director. So I encourage her to shoot, and we learned to shoot on Super 8, and we just because we were kind of doing it off the smallest budget as possible, we would style ourselves and she would do my makeup and she cut my bangs and like everything. So we became friends through this process. We weren't friends before. We've just kind of built this like through working together. And it's honestly just that sense of playing that nothing can go wrong because we're just going to learn from it and laugh about it that has enabled us to make work that I'm really proud of. Oh, and I will also say one other thing to Jo's process. She's very tapped into the spiritual side of the idea of the songs. And so after I had listened to the music so many times and had, got to every last granular detail and had been thinking of things very technically, at the end of the process, the songs are kind of in mixing. She would come to me and get really excited about the essence of the idea again. And it kind of felt like it was the songwriting process all over again.
You've set up a Substack, but not posted yet. Is there an intention to sort of tell some stories about the album and things on there eventually?
Oh my God. Yes. I was thinking about doing it in the lead up, but I decided to hold and wait until the album's out. And then in May and June, when I have a bit more space, I'm going to write about each song and delve a little deeper for the people that want to know things. But writing is something that I feel vulnerable about. I think I'm still figuring out my way of writing the written word. And so I just need a little headspace to be able to explore that and give something that I think is really worthwhile because I don't want to put anything out that I'm not proud of.
Moving on, let's talk about your live shows. Firstly, I guess this isn't such an easy album to play live as it's got a lot of layers and textures to it.
We have been playing the album in their arrangements in the last year, but then in the last month or so with the mixes and masters being finished, the band and I, instead of kind of having a traditional rehearsal where we just play music, we've been doing a bit more listening and having some heated discussions over the way we're interpreting them into the live show, which has been really exciting. So we've had some listen throughs and everyone's like, oh, dude, you changed that. And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Like, totally changed the emphasis of that song. And so it's been cool because we don't have a trumpet player. So that's one texture that we don't have that I really, really want. And that is super hard to replace. So that's something that I'm looking for, maybe a trumpet player for our big shows, but like we've already got a band of 5, so touring with one more is just like not going to be feasible. Recently thinking about the emphasis and like almost like the narrative of the music, where it swells and where it dips and like kind of like the contours of the song and figuring out how we can interpret it live. Because sometimes like going straight from the recording to live, it doesn't work and you have to supplement and exchange things. And my band are just so talented and dynamic and interested and curious and playful and unreal. And so that's been an exciting process to begin. But we have Ruby, who plays keys, does a really amazing job of doing the string arrangements and translating that. And Ollie, my drummer, has such an amazing ear for texture. And so he also uses a drum machine live for some of the percussive elements we have. And I think he does an amazing job with percussion and drums. So it is feeling pretty true to the album at the moment, which is exciting.
On the 6th of June, you've got the album launch show. But that's the only thing I could see listed. Have you got more plans, or are you sort of still in the planning stages of what you're going to do with this live?
I do have more plans. I'm not really allowed to announce some of the things yet, which is exciting for me because usually, I don't know, I haven't really had like contracts and stuff yet. So I've signed a few exciting things coming up in June and July. I'm going to be doing a regional tour in around September in Victoria. And then in January, I'm planning to go to Aotearoa, New Zealand, but just kind of throwing the first stones of planning that tour at the moment. So those are the things that I'm organizing, and so I can say. But yeah, kind of definitely focusing on Australia and NZ in the next like 6 to 8 months.
The final question, what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
Okay, Flesh Cherub's new album is nuts, and first album where they've been like a real drum kit on it, which I think has elevated the music in a way I wasn't expecting. And I would take Flesh Job in any form, in any arrangement, but I really, really love the new album and felt very passionately about that. Georgia Knight, another Naarm-based artist or connected. I'm actually not sure where she's living, maybe in New Zealand at the moment. But her recent album, Beanpole, is nuts. Okay, so yeah, Georgia Knight, you should definitely listen to that album. Really loving Ella Ion, an artist from Adelaide that's more on the folk side, but there's just this quality in her music, this like very dreamy but slightly weird, and there's always this interesting emphasis on rhythm in her music that is very alluring to me. Another one is Kisses. Their new album is awesome, and I've just always been a huge fan of them. Like, literally had voice memos of all of their live shows that I was listening to like a year before their first album came out. So, bit of a freak.
So for people wishing to find out more about Tilly Vickers Willis, check the socials: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Bandcamp, and also maybe Substack at some stage.
Yes.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Silver Halide film by Tilly Vickers Willis is out now, both physically on vinyl via Bandcamp and can be heard on all streaming platforms. Tilly, thank you for being here and filling in some of the gaps in your music.
Thanks so much.